All right, got my French drain mostly installed. It's been a good bit of time on it yesterday, digging all this out. My granddad helped me. It's definitely needed having a second hand here for this type of work, but dug all that out, poured concrete, like a layer of concrete in the bottom of it, just some Quickcrete, probably about 2 inches thick and 4-6 inches wide down through there. And then put some geotextile down on it, and then some plastic, and then put the pipe on there and kind of put some weights on it and weighted it. Kind of wanted to cradle down in that concrete a little bit instead of just sitting on rock and mud and stuff. I wanted to give it a little bit of a pad to sit on, especially on that side going into the garage, because I'll be driving over top of it. And maybe it's a little bit overkill having that concrete in there, but I just felt better with it in there. So, and my thought process here is that all the water is going to come down this driveway, and it'll have crusher run, packed concrete on this side with just a foot or so here of 57 gravel that's just loose. It'll go right on top of this pipe. That way, when the water's coming down the driveway, it'll just go into that loose gravel. The geotextile is there to keep the mud from mixing in with that rock and into the pipe and stuff over time, give it a nice barrier. And then the plastic just on this one side is to keep water from going past the pipe underneath the patio and the apron here. That's kind of my main concern with all this. Not to mention, I mean, the water has to go somewhere, but mainly I want to keep it out from underneath this patio, because that's what they say causes settling underneath concrete like this. There's a couple things that can happen. One is like freeze, thaw, which that could happen anyway. That's not going to help this much. But the other is just water over time working its way under there. And so I really want to keep it out from under there. And again, obviously the drain pipes themselves are to get it down to here. And if you remember from the previous videos, I've got drain lines running underneath this apron, down this way, out, down temporarily, just like that. But the the point is to keep it from washing underneath there and letting it settle. You can see, I don't know how well you can see in this video, this is my old concrete here, the old patio. It's actually settled and moved around. There's a pretty good lip right there. It's higher right there, dips down lower there. And I don't know how much of that is just, maybe they poured that on top of fill. Maybe it's the water issue, but either way, I'd rather not find out. And either way, this water's got to go somewhere, because it's a low point here coming off that driveway. And again, I've mentioned before, I've only got one shot at it. This right in here, I could kind of rework somehow, but this drain pipe under here, it's just is what it is. So anyway, I bought this box, and the pipe goes out this way, that one going this way. I cut a 4-inch hole and it's there, so it pops out. Oh, you can see it. It'll pour into there and then go out the other side. I figure I'm gonna have to keep this kind of cleaned out pretty regularly, junk and stuff getting in it. But I'm hoping with this geotextile is a kind of a filter. It won't get a bunch of junk like mud and stuff rolling into there. Hopefully it'll be fairly clean by the time it gets to that point. But another thing I had to contend with is on this end, you can't really see it right now because it's covered in concrete, but there's an old footer drain popping out. I don't know if it's a footer drain for the entire garage or just this retaining wall or what, but it actually gets some water out of it when it rains. So had to get that going somewhere, and it was like glass almost. It's so old, it's probably 50 years old, and so you couldn't really tie into it. Plus it was jammed up against that rock. So I took a piece of 3-inch electrical conduit, like PVC conduit, you can kind of barely see it there, and just put a bunch of RTV on it and rammed it up inside there. I think it sealed pretty decently. Then I put a coupling on the end of that, which brought it back out to a 4-inch almost, so I could suck this piece of flexible, whatever you want to call it, pipe. This stuff's pretty dinky, but then that goes into this I think they call it SDR 35 sewer pipe. It's kind of the mid-grade. It's stronger than the sewer pipe, but not as good as Schedule 40. But this is only gonna have foot traffic on it, so I wasn't too concerned. But then this was one of the worst connections. I had to just duct tape them together because they were the same diameter, and I didn't have any other types of pipe that could connect them whatsoever. So I duct tape it and then just pour concrete around it to kind of give it a seal there. And then, so down through here is just solid pipe. Then it gets to here, it'll be obviously these holes I drilled in this pipe, let water into it. Again, this is a piece of 3-inch electrical conduit, Schedule 40. That's real strong. I don't think they'll have any issue holding a vehicle up. On this side, I think this will probably end up just getting some loose stuff in here that just kind of drain. There won't be much. I mean, that's just a little bit of water right here. I'm more concerned about all this on this side rolling down through here. It's a lot more surface area to drain. So anyway, I think it's turned out pretty good, kind of what I had in mind. And we also try to get the slopes right. It's got a little bit of a slope coming this way, a little bit of a slope coming that way. There was just a lot to think about and how it's all going to come together. And I poured that concrete yesterday afternoon, and it got up to, or got down to like low 20s last night. I was wondering what would happen with it, if it would just freeze, you know. I came out this morning and the concrete was still kind of mushy, so I'm assuming that meant it didn't freeze, but it's having a hard time settling up. I mean, it can, or curing, I guess you could say it. You can kind of squish into it still. So 24 hours later, it's still trying to thaw. Luckily, it's in the mid 40s today, so I'm hoping that it gets fairly firmed up. Now, it's not a critical type of concrete. You know, it's just there for a little bit of a base. I would not want to be doing what I just did here with this patio, where it's going to sit out here and freeze down to the 20s overnight, because they say they can cause a lot of issues. You need about a couple days, they say, to probably get to the point where it's cured enough, where there's not enough water in it to matter. This is kind of what I was doing on it. But down in this corner, I shoved a bunch of concrete really good underneath those the pipes. That way when you're stepping on it, that box isn't holding all the weight. I was worried about that. It could crack that box or something. You really don't have to replace that box anytime soon, but who knows, hopefully it'll hold up. This side over here, really the closest a vehicle should drive on, it's about right here, so it shouldn't put much pressure on that pipe, but we'll see how all this holds up over time. One other quick thing, I've been working on trying to get my, I'm trying to call it, my trim work, I guess is what I'm trying to say, around my garage door here. It's kind of a critical component at the moment in terms of keep moving, because around the front here, I can't do any of the siding until all that's done and somewhat painted. You know, this is going to end up being like a dark gray, like darker than the actual siding gray. And so I'm working on trying to get all my components for that and get all that mounted. So I'm out here today working on that too, and it's looking decent. You know, it's my first time messing with it, and might make a couple little adjustments before it's over with. But you know, that brick mold is going to go right on here, so you got to get that nice and flush all the way around. I think I'm gonna try to paint that brick mold before I put it on, and the rest of it just leave it white for now. Paint it, who knows, next time it's warm outside. The brick mold I'll have to paint inside the house, because you need it like 70 degrees out, and I could paint it all later, but once that siding goes on here, it's gonna be harder to paint. You know, it's just, you have to mask all that siding off and everything. It just, I don't know, I'll think about it. I may try to just paint it in the basement or something. But I got all my siding too. That was a job, just going to get it and haul it and everything. And even all this vinyl, or yeah, it was PVC, I guess. You know, when you get in 12-foot sections, it's kind of hard to haul. So anyway, I picked it all up one day and got it all over here, so that's nice. There's like a couple more boxes in my other garage of this, but anyway, I'm getting close to being able to start on the siding. Got a few more things to work on, and let's see, one other thing I can show on this update is getting a little further with the electrical. Still a long ways to go to be ready to put that in, but or to get them to pull the wire in there. But we got the box mounted. The meter base is on the left, the disconnect's on the right. I got to pull that disconnect back off and make a couple minor adjustments there, but slowly picking away at it. You know, it's kind of like you work on it a little bit, order some pieces for it, work on it some more. There's just a lot to it. A lot of little custom things that need designed. Like mainly right now, it's kind of got me a little bit of a hold up is this little piece of conduit here. The length of it ended up being like a 1/2 inch too long. So now I had a custom order 2.5. You know, this is a 3. It's just about the only thing Lowe's has like that. So anyway, I had to order something custom. So I got to pull all that back off there, put new nuts on the other side of it. Little things like that. I got all the wiring, all the actual main wiring from here to the outside. You got to get a custom link for that. So I went to Lowe's and had them cut it out. Not necessarily custom, but you don't, you know, you buy it by the foot, and had them get some measurements on that. So anyway, we got that box kind of temporarily mounted. Got a torpedo heater in this tank. I've already had this tank for my fireplace inside, but anyway, trying to have a way to get some heat in here while we're working this winter. But anyway, that's probably about it for now. Just thought I'd do another quick update.